Welcome to GR Giving Day podcast. I've got with me Nate on the line here, Nathan Maynard, and then we've got Dave Bulkowski. So I'm super excited to have you both. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. Let's go around the room. I would love to have you guys share what you do. So, where you're from, what you do, and how long you've been doing it. So why don't we start with Dave?
Sure. My name is Dave, and I am with Disability Advocates of Kent County. I've been with the organization only 29 and a half years, and we are a disability rights organization at our core, and we have two parts of our mission. One is to work alongside people with disabilities. We do a lot of navigating and advocating on the individual level, and then provide some direct services around home modifications, pre-employment supports, benefit application, what have you. And then we also do public policy work, do a lot in public transportation, affordable, accessible housing, direct care work, and then just general ADA stuff.
29 years, you said?
29 and a half.
And a half. I can't forget the and a half. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as an advocate, I can tell you how to change. I hate change.
Yeah.
So I'm still there.
And you've been with this organization 29 and a half years.
Yes.
So it's very young organization.
Well, I didn't found it. We started in 1981.
Wow.
I came along in 95.
Oh my goodness. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks. We'll come around. I want to hear more about it. We'll come around in a second. So Nathan, why don't you share a little bit about what organization you're with and what work you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Nathan Maynard. The organization that I'm with is called Highfive. Highfive helps students feel like they belong in schools. So what we focus on is creating connected school communities. We work with a lot of underserved and underprivileged communities and areas to really help them sort of understand how to understand kids' behaviors in the classroom and how to navigate sort of empowerment around that. The organization's been around now for 2 years. We've served 36 different states, a lot of different counties there in Michigan, and we are really excited about looking at supporting more of Michigan.
Well, I would love to also hear from each of you guys the origin story, because I'm sure there's a story. Being 2 years old, I'm sure there's some kind of story there that I'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, I was a youth worker for 7 years. At that time, I understood that a lot of the lived experiences that I had were sort of similar to some of the kids that I was working with. Some of these different kids have had a lot of complexities in their lives, and sometimes people looked at them in a different way, like this is a bad kid or this is a good kid. And I wanted to sort of drop down those connotations and labels. So after a youth worker, I went into education. I started teaching, and then I was a college career readiness coordinator. After a period of time, I became a school administrator, and then I worked with Purdue University and opened up their first high school, or helped open up their first high school for underserved and underprivileged youth in Indianapolis, Indiana. At that time, I wrote a book called Hacking School Discipline. It really changed my life. It became number 6 in the world, bestseller, and then bestseller in 20 plus countries. What that did was really elevated my voice and my access and opportunity to really expand the good that our organization was doing. So that's why we formed Highfive, to really make sure we can scale something up, and it's an evidence base to really understand what teachers and educators need to help students right now.
That's awesome. Well, I want to hear more about it. But I do want to go to Dave over here and hear a little bit about the origin story of the organization you're working at.
Yeah, well, thanks, Nathan, for putting another book on my reading list. Because, with some of the things that Nathan talked about, coincidentally, yesterday I was at Wyoming High School, and we were giving, or actually re-giving, our Discoverability Award to a high school senior who happens to be a kid with a disability in Wyoming Public High School. And he himself has done tons to break down the barriers for kids with disabilities to be accepted in that community. And some of the things Nathan talked about just resonates, because for Gabe, it's happening. For a lot of kids with disabilities, it's not. Mm-hmm. So just some great resonance. I'm going to just guess that some of those discipline hacks, kid has a learning disability and becomes disruptive and then gets labeled as a discipline problem. But I'll read the book and not take too many spoilers from it. So all of that to say that our origin story is that people with disabilities saw the civil rights movement in the 60s, in the women's rights movement, And folks said, well, we're getting discriminated against too for no good reason other than we have disabilities. And so it was Berkeley, California, that a group of folks came together. I could go on about it, but they came together and created a thing called a Center for Independent Living. How do we help people live independently? Um, the first in Michigan was Ann Arbor in 1976, and ourselves and a few others started in 1981. And again, it came up from a group of people with disabilities that said, hey, we want access. We want to be part of this thing called community, but we don't have ramps
Mm.
into different venues. And without we have awesome partnerships around the community working on accessibility. So when I say like DeVos Performance Hall has huge challenges for accessibility and inclusion because it was coincidentally open in 1981. And so it was built, okay. Van Andel Arena, fantastic. Every suite has an accessible bathroom. Just great stuff. And we've already provided consultation services on the new amphitheater and the new soccer stadium. So we're always there making sure the built environment is going to be welcoming. At the same time, we work on the attitudinal environment. Again, people with disabilities continue to be who we are, part of what we are, and creating that community.
Super important work. Yeah, both you guys, what you guys are working on. That's really cool. Really cool. Can you guys share some stories of how, you've been at the organization 29 and a half years. So I'm sure you've seen and heard some stories of the impact you guys are creating within your nonprofits. Can you share a little bit about that? And maybe we'll start with Dave and then go to Nathan.
Sure. I mean, one of our challenges is when you kind of look at us one angle, it looks like we do a lot of different things. But when you kind of boil it down, it's all about like this, sitting across the table with a person with a disability, his or her family, support folks, and figuring out where you want to go. What are your goals? And then we figure out what's in the way.
Mm.
And then we develop a thing that's called an independent living plan, which is what are those barriers? And the key is, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? Because if we just do 4, it'll have some impact. But if we do with, and again, because I've been with the organization a long time, we had some really clunky, I think that's the technical term, mission statements. But now we say we work alongside. And that's the key, not with or for, it's alongside. And so it's helping somebody get a ramp and seeing somebody being able to get out of their house without having to get out of their wheelchair and bump themselves down on their behind.
Yeah.
Somebody being able to use their kitchen again. I mean, just seeing, and again, that's going to be every day for as long as they use that. So, and most of our work is that it's episodic. We come in and we help people, and then we let them move on in life, and then we bring back. But we always invite them to come back as volunteers. It's like back to our work with, we were at the groundbreaking for the amphitheater, and we call them our test pilots. And so 6 people, in addition to our staff, who have different kinds of disabilities. So when the community leaders see, oh my gosh, there's somebody in a wheelchair, somebody in a walker, somebody who's blind here, well, maybe we should make sure we include them from day one. And they have. It's just making sure that's there. So we're seeing that impact and great joy from those 6 people, because one of my good friends had never met Mayor Bliss, called her over, got a picture, and Ronnie is beyond fantastic volunteer and part of us. So let me give Nathan a bit of oxygen here.
There's some big impact there. I love it. The amphitheater. It's a very exciting project happening in Grand Rapids, and I'm very glad to see that they're engaging an organization like yours to make sure that we are including those folks in this. So that's really neat to see. Cool. Well, Nathan, I'd love to hear a little bit of some stories behind the impact your organization's creating.
when it comes to the impact, just to quickly reflect a little bit around the disabilities, I think that it's extremely important of the work that you're sharing on this podcast as well. So, very supportive of that. As someone with ADHD myself, my co-founder has dyslexia, dyspraxia, and we talk a lot about neurodivergency and how neurodivergence sometimes are those problem students in the school, but sometimes there's a system issue that's taking place. And that's what Highfive really tries to address and creates access and opportunities across the school. The way that we do this is really upskilling the educators to understand how to connect with kids past the initial behavior that they're doing. So a lot of the impacts of our different work that we've done, High Five as an organization has been around for 2 years, but there's been a couple other organizations that I brought into this that I started after I left education. One of those organizations was sort of our consulting arm of Now High Five, where we would go into really schools that were really complex and have different challenges. One really big success story we had was in Cherokee County. And this is in Georgia because we're a national company. In Georgia at the time, they were having a high actual suicide rate that was taking place in their district. Their district had 44,000 students in the district, and they realized they had to do something a little bit different there. What they did was they read my book, Hacking School Discipline, and learned a little bit of ways to create empathy, forgiveness, and belonging in schools. And then they reached out to me to consult with me to have me come in and sort of address what was taking place. We started out with something called a needs assessment to really understand what the school is going through and sort of the mindsets of the educators and the students there. Then from there, we created sort of an action plan to make sure that every teacher and educator across the entire district understood the strategies it would need to connect with kids. Then we created an implementation plan, and now we're on year 4 with the relationship with them, because again, it was some historic work that we've done brought into High Five. And as of last year, they dropped down suspensions by 29,700 days of out of school suspension. The suicide completions have went down drastically, and now they speak nationwide around how this is a protective factor for students. We're also looking at university partners to help validate some of this work too. So, what we're going to be doing with the Giving Day is really exciting for us, with some past relationships with the University of Michigan that we've done, some work with Rebecca Hansen and the Michigan Moving before. But we want to track what this work really looks like because it's really powerful on the anecdotal level right now.
Hmm. Really powerful work. My son has ADHD, and he often gets labeled a problem child in school. So it's very near my heart what you're saying. So, and similarly, my grandpa actually, every time he would live at our house when he was alive, and it was very difficult to bring him anywhere with any type of accessibility options. And that both of these nonprofits are very dear to me. So, very cool mission work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would love to go around and kind of close this out by asking the question, GR Giving Day. So what does that mean to you, and what do you hope to get out of GR Giving Day? So let's start with Dave.
The biggest thing is, and I can give you all kinds of bad stories of when we don't collaborate and it doesn't do well. So for us, the biggest thing is working together, getting to know a few other nonprofits. As I already said, I'll be reading Nathan's book and passing it along to, hopefully my team's already read it, that work in schools, but we'll find out. And so it's that collaboration, and then raising awareness, so that one of the worst things we hear, and we hear it way too regularly, is, oh, I wish I met you guys a year ago or 2 years ago. And so if there's a handful of people who hear about us now instead of a year from now, that's going to be awesome. And the last but not least, of course, if we raise a few dollars to put towards the mission, that'll be awesome as well. But truly, that's going to be the third priority for us.
Mm. And also, maybe before we move on to Nathan, I want to hear, from you as well, Nathan, when we get to you, is how can someone get involved in your organization? What are the needs involved in the organization as well?
Well, there's definitely lots of ways to do volunteering. Our volunteering isn't as kind of clear cut as others, but that, for example, we're going to be bringing some corporate groups through downtown Grand Rapids doing some journey mapping related to the soccer stadium and what is the actual time to get from parking and where drop off needs to be and all of that. We also do mock interview sessions with high school students. And so we had in the spring, we had 50 spots for students. To say we sold out in 44 minutes. They were free, so I guess, but still, we ended up with 62 students. That's how impactful it is for the teachers. And we had about 45 corporate partners who do and we say mock interview, but the kids are really learning communication skills and how to, speak with adults in that kind of formal setting. And so there's those opportunities. So, and reach out, but also as we like to say, if disability is in the question, call us. If we don't know the answer, we know who does. So that's come hang out with us.
Very cool. And you guys are in Easttown.
Well, no, that's where I am.
Okay.
But we're out at the Unified Sports and Inclusion Campus of Special Olympics at 68th and Division.
Awesome.
But we serve all of Kent County and then up the 131 corridor to Reed City.
Cool. Very cool. Well, Nathan, how about yourself? So what is GR Giving Day to you? What do you hope to get out of it? And then also, how can someone get plugged into what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, GR Giving Day to me is really an opportunity to build up more connections there, to really work with other nonprofits that are doing excellent work across the state, as well as sort of look for different partnerships to help us with the validations and the efficacies of our studies that we're doing. We have a lot of very large studies going on and some micro studies going on in different school atmospheres and climates. So it's also important for us to look for school partners during Grand Rapids Giving Day too, of different communities that might be in high needs right now that we could deploy some services into in some of our belonging metrics to really understand, do kids feel like they belong in your school? And if they don't, what's some actionable ways to take actions with it until it turns into something that's a little bit more complex for us to work through.
Cool. And you guys' websites, is there a website people can visit to learn more information? What you, Nathan?
Yeah, for me, it's Highfive, all one word, .school. And that's a great way to connect with us. We have a lot of different opportunities available as well. We also are looking for ambassadors of this work too in Michigan to help us represent and speak to different schools across Michigan.
Nice. And 5 is spelled out?
Yeah, HIGHFIVE.school.
Perfect. Awesome.
We are DAKC.us. Disability Advocates of Kent County. So dakc.us.
Okay. And for those that are listening, also go to grgivingday.com. I'm sure they can find you guys there as well.
Awesome.
So thank you again so much for you guys' time. It's great learning more about what you guys are working on and the impact you guys are creating here in Kent County, Grand Rapids, and beyond.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.